Good morning, friends. What a joy to be with so many dear friends, collaborators, advocates. We have been together in this journey for a while. It's nice to see you all together. I want to start with a moment of gratitude to each of you. I remember back to 7 years ago when this work first started inside of the Athens Roundtable, the Future Society, a world that existed that didn't have multilateral governance mechanisms, that didn't really have international scientific advisory bodies, didn't have convening spaces to bring together those of us who care so deeply about this issue. And so first, my gratitude to the incredible team at the Future Society, to its founders, to its staff, to all of the advocates who together form an ecosystem that work together. Let's give each other and to the incredible team here a big round of applause. I have very brief remarks here. I'm living my own personal nightmare of planes, trains, and automobiles, and so I'll have to leave shortly after this. But I want to share with you just a few ideas that I draw from this crowd and hopefully will shape the discussion ahead today. I've spent most of my life thinking about the forefront of innovation, of building companies, of building scientific advances, and now of building ecosystems that support the innovation and some of the greatest things that we as humanity aspire to do. Our ingenuity, our creativity, our technical capacity to build new things that we can only envision and shortly thereafter realize and use in the world. And yet I also want to acknowledge that the conversation about innovation has become one-sided, that we spend so much time in thinking about the innovation in technology that we fail to invest as equally in innovation in our democratic systems. And so I invite you to imagine with me a world where the ingenuity that we plow into the development of new AI models is paralleled by an ingenuity used to reimagine democratic institutions. One where the attention that we lavish on technology founders and new model breakthroughs is equaled by a fascination in public trust in how we build and sustain it. Where the applause we give to those rock star tech CEOs that show up in our headlines is paralleled by a shared social acclaim for those who invest in building greater trust, in building systems that leverage what technology builds and makes it possible for us to define a shared future. If we built a future like that, we might fundamentally change many of our approaches. We might change the idea that schools train users of technology to becoming creators of technological systems. Public institutions might move from thinking about how we adopt AI to thinking about how we use technology in ways that retain judgment and discretion that incredibly transform our capacity to deliver services. And we might avoid the mind-numbing conversations that I sit through these days about how we train the workers of the future. Instead, we might ask, how do we support a generation to become kind, empathetic, dignified leaders who take the opportunities of AI and technology and build a society that makes us proud? Our vocabulary might change. We might no longer talk about model parameters and capacities of systems. We might instead think about the number of families who have access to the benefits of AI systems. We might stop talking about companies and market share and think about institutions and public welfare. We might move to a world where our combined and shared commitment to innovation brings us to a public conversation that, rather than excluding those who are non-technological, centers those who operate at the front lines of vulnerability. It's a view of imagination and innovation that recenters us in a moment where the public discourse is, as always, polarized between two extremes. On one side, a sense of hype, an unexamined idea that the possibilities of AI are so transformative that they by themselves will change the world we live in. And on the other, horror, the paralyzing anxiety that somehow these systems will create such negative consequences that there is nothing else to do. The challenge with polarizing narratives is that they, by their very definition, mean that somewhere between miracle and catastrophe leave no space for democratic discourse, for participation, for people like you and me to actually step in and say, wait, there is something here to be done that isn't simply a story of inevitability, but a story of personal agency. And I want to acknowledge that that's what brings this room together. I think back to those early days, and looking around the room, I see so many close friends from the OECD, from UNESCO, from the Center for AI and Digital Policy, from Brookings, from, of course, the incredible founding team at the Future Society. These institutions are built around the idea that we can do better, that we can take the incredible products of what are happening in laboratories and bring them into legislative assemblies, that we can actually build together a new social fabric that parallels the incredible possibility of the technological innovation that we create. So what does it take for us to realize that promise? I think in a few ways we are seeing a new formulation of what collaboration needs to look like. The entrance of new players, those technological guides who lead us through what's possible. A reconfiguration of cooperation. We just heard a discussion that talked about some of the incredible geopolitical forces that are shaping how we think about AI. The creation of new institutions. We heard from my very dear friend Amandeep how at the UN we are building new mechanisms by which we bring people together to create new opportunity here. But I want to be very clear. Cooperation and collaboration doesn't require a homogeneity of ideas. It doesn't require us all to believe the same thing. It only requires us to start from a sense of shared principles. Basic principles that we might start from naming, like the fact that rights, principles, values, and norms should guide where we allocate public resources in the development of new technologies. The idea that no country should, by moral virtue, dominate what the future of AI looks like. The idea that we should support with strategic collaboration those public decision makers in the same way that the private sector does. That maybe most fundamentally, that the AI future we create should be defined by purpose more than it is by profit. And so those are the ideas I leave you with today. I know that I'm in many ways reflecting back what I've learned from this incredible community. I want to thank you for being together. I think that the work ahead is maybe in a moment of not hype, not horror, but incredible hope. And I'm very delighted to share that space with you. Thank you all so much.